After my arch nemesis went broke, I rolled up in my old Ford Ranger and brought her back to my place. She used to despise me, the new money hog farmer. Now, I had her mucking out pens, slopping pigs, and I'd even strong-armed her into marrying me. We lived like that, married for over half a year. I actually started to think she might be falling for me. Then, the Kensingtons got their name cleared, and just like that, she was high society again. Surrounded by her rich friends, she made a crack about me stinking of pig shit. She said, cool as anything, yeah, that smell is pretty disgusting. 1. The night was pitch black, the back seat of the Ranger silent. If it weren't for Ava Kensington breathing beside me, I'd have thought I was hauling a ghost. From hearing the Kensingtons were bankrupt to dragging Ava and her family back to my hog farm in rural Illinois, it all happened in less than 8 hours. I remember clear as day, leaving that morning. My dad asked, Shane, where you headed? I told him, gonna bring you back a daughter-in-law with some brains. Freshman year of high school, the first time I laid eyes on Ava Kensington, I was hooked. Beautiful, whip-smart, but way out of my league back then. Then a couple of weeks ago, her old man, Arthur Kensington, got arrested, assets frozen. Ava, her mom, and her grandma were kicked out on the street. She was crashing with a so-called best friend in Chicago, but that didn't last. Friend turned on her, tossed her stuff out. By the time I got to the city, the three of them were huddled under an overpass, looking barely better than homeless. I hauled them back to the farm. Dad was already asleep. I got the Kensingtons cleaned up, showed them the shower. They were like robots, totally numb, just doing whatever I said. Cleaned up, they crashed on the spare beds and were out like lights. Next morning, still dark out, I woke up like clockwork. 10 years working the farm with Dad. My internal clock was more reliable than any rooster. Threw on a jacket, grabbed some kindling from the woodpile, and headed to the kitchen in the dark. I always get the fire going in the old stove before chopping the pig feed. Water was just starting to warm up when the kitchen door creaked open. Ava Kensington walked in, wearing a Chanel jacket that looked wildly out of place. The last few weeks had knocked a lot of that icy, proud look off her. Now she just seemed lost, unsure. Is there anything I can do to help? I thought for a second, then pointed to a pile in the corner. Grab a knife. Chop up these pumpkins for the feed. Turns out, I'd overestimated Ava. Straight A's in school didn't mean she knew beans about farm work. First chop, she nearly took a chunk out of her own hand. Blood welled up, and she winced, brow furrowing. I sighed, went to get some gauze from the first aid kit. Are you serious? You gotta hold the pumpkin steady when you cut it. Am I completely useless? Can't I do anything right? She sat on a small wooden stool, eyes downcast, looking like a dejected kitten. My heart melted a little. It's okay. You'll get the hang of it. Next time will be better. I crushed some yarrow leaves I kept for small cuts and pressed them onto the wound. Forget it. Just go feed the fire for me. Don't stuff it too fast. Let the wood catch, or it'll go out. Ava glanced at me, pulled back the log she was about to shove in. A flicker of embarrassment crossed her face. Shane, you know so much. In the 4+ years I'd known her, I'd never heard her say anything like that. Mostly, it was her looking down her nose at me. Shane, are you an idiot? How can you get so much wrong? Or anyone could guess that answer right with their eyes closed, and you still messed it up. I give up. Back then, she was valedictorian material, class president type. I was the screw-up who only got into that fancy private school, caused Dad greasy palms. If I hadn't been so stubborn, always firing back at her, I would have dropped out long ago. Now, hearing praise from her, threw me for a loop. I had to say something. Nah, it's nothing. Practice makes perfect. So, where's your boyfriend? I was talking about Liam Scott, her childhood sweetheart. Guy trailed after her all through high school, always puffing out his chest and acting like he owned her whenever I was around. Surprised he wasn't here now. Ava looked down. He's not my boyfriend. Looked like when trouble hit, he flew the coop. I fought to hide a smirk, trying to sound casual. All right, forget I asked, but I was sneaking glances at her out of the corner of my eye. Ava was always top-tier beautiful in my book. Stunning features, that cool, intelligent air about her. She was destined for big things. And now, I'd basically picked her up off the scrap heap. The thought made me grin. With a beauty by my side, I finished making the pig feed. Ava's mom, Mrs. Kensington, and Grandma Kensington were up by then. Mrs. Kensington had been a society wife her whole life. The sudden shift to country living. She wasn't adjusting well. She clutched Ava's arm. I'm so worried about your father. Ava patted her hand. Mom, don't worry. Mr. Peterson is already gathering evidence for Dad's case. He'll let us know if there are any developments. She said this while I had my back to them, chopping vegetables for our own breakfast. Ava was lying. That Mr. Peterson she mentioned. He wouldn't touch the Kensingtons case with a 10-foot pole. Ava called him yesterday, and he practically yelled at her, said she couldn't afford his fees. But her mom, with her weak heart, couldn't know that. After breakfast, I suggested Mrs. Kensington take her mother for a walk around the property. Ava sighed, wiped her face. I knew. She was only 22, still just a kid, really. She was out of options. Shane, what am I going to do? That was what I'd been waiting for. I slammed the cleaver into the cutting board. I have a way. What way? Marry me. I'll give you the money. 2. Before I even went to pick up Ava, I'd told Dad about the Kensingtons. My parents' marriage was a wreck. Mom took off with some guy when I was 3. Dad couldn't be bothered with me back then, so I pretty much raised myself, scrounging for what I could. When I was 10, he suddenly cleaned up his act, came home, and started the hog farm. Got lucky, made some money, but Mom screwing him over left him bitter. He doesn't trust women. I wasn't exactly overflowing with warm fuzzies for Dad either, and I trusted people even less. So we were on the same page. Find a good candidate, smart and healthy, for the heir, then cut the mother loose. Keep the kid, ditch the mom. After I brought Ava back, Dad texted me, Shane, this one's perfect. Lock it down fast. With Dad's green light, I laid it all out for Ava. Your dad needs money for his legal defense. We can provide it. My dad needs a legitimate grandchild to inherit the business. You can give him that. We get a marriage certificate. Once there's a kid, we can get divorced. Ava only hesitated for a few minutes before she agreed. She had no choice. Her father was in jail, no news. The longer it dragged on, the harder it would be to get him out, even with money. I told Dad Ava agreed. His reply, Toad got the swan pretty quick, huh? Me? 3 days later, Ava and I got our marriage license at the county courthouse. When we told Ava's mom and grandma, more like a formal announcement than a celebration, her mom looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. She probably felt, not without reason, like we were vultures picking over carcass. But when the first installment of the money, a cool $1 million, hit their account, her expression sweetened right up. I was happy too. Tonight, Ava Kensington would be mine. I noticed back in school, she had an incredible figure, all curves in the right places. Tonight was going to be something. She was wearing a simple dress, looking the part. We'd both had a bit of whiskey Dad kept for special occasions. I pulled Ava along. What's the latest with your dad? Mr. Tan, the new lawyer, says it's complicated, but there's still a chance of winning. Good. Behind the main farmhouse, there's a separate 2-story building Dad put up last year after a good season. The top floor was already fixed up, meant to be my place when I eventually got married. I pushed open the door. It was dusty, mostly unfinished. Walls weren't even painted, except for the bedroom, which had this massive bed in it. I rubbed my nose. You can shower first, she said. Okay. The sound of the water running in the bathroom had my mind racing. Afraid I'd lose control and barge in, I paced the room, looking for something to distract myself. There was a nightstand. I pulled open the drawer. A box of condoms. I saw red. Texted Dad. What the hell is this? Huh? Thought you might need them. Are you an idiot? The whole point is for her to get pregnant. Oh, right. Dad forgot. My bad, sorry. That's scatterbrain. I slammed the drawer shut. Looked up. Ava was standing there. She was in a thin bathrobe, clinging in all the right places. Steam rose off her, droplets of water tracing paths down, disappearing into the white towel cinched at her waist. I licked my lips without thinking. Ava's eyes, which had held a hint of a smile, darkened with something else as she slowly approached. WH, what are you doing? I managed. Nothing, she said, her voice husky. Just thinking you should take a shower. Her hand slid under the hem of my shirt, sending a shiver through me. Don't you want a baby? She murmured. If we don't shower, how are we going to proceed? My mouth always runs faster than my brain. We could just take our clothes off. Are you stupid or something? I blurted out. The words were barely out before I regretted them. God, what was I saying? To my surprise, Ava just chuckled a low, throaty sound. You're right. Clothes off is all it takes. Husband knows best. 3. I had good reason to suspect Ava had played me. Before the wedding, she swore she'd never even dated anyone. But that entire night, I was in way over my head. Every inch of me was buzzing, but I still had to act tough. She asked, tired? I shot back. Just cause you're an amateur doesn't mean everyone is. Ava didn't get mad. She just patiently supported my hips. Shane, has anyone ever told you not to provoke a woman in bed? So what if I provoke you? It tends to bring out her competitive side. My scalp tingled. I made a bolt, but she pinned me down. Now, let's try again and see who the real amateur is. Ava was definitely still that cunning schemer I knew, just she brought her scores settling to the bedroom. Left me waking up the next morning feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. I dragged myself out of bed, all limbs aching, and went to start the fire and make breakfast like usual. Mrs. Kensington was up too, dark circles under her eyes. I asked, "You're not sleeping well here, Mrs. K?" She hesitated, then said, "No, it's not that. I'm just worried about Ava's father." "Ava's already got the lawyer on it, ma'am," I said. "Try not to worry too much." I kept chopping the pumpkins as I spoke. Mrs. Kensington watched me, a strange look on her face. "Shane, you're only in your early 20s. How do you get so capable at all this?" I just smiled. "This is nothing, Mrs. K. I've been looking after myself since I was a kid. Cooking, chores, it's all routine. If Dad hadn't sold off the big commercial farm operation last year, I'd still be cooking for a whole crew of workers. You're quite something. What about your mother?" I paused, then turned back to my chopping. "She's gone." The smile on Mrs. Kensington's face froze. Truth is, I knew a family like the Kensingtons would never accept a son-in-law with my background. Good thing I wasn't greedy. All I wanted was a smart kid to carry on the line. Women, plenty of those around. Quickly finished cooking. Dad was up by then. He gave me a teasing look before heading out to feed the pigs. We only had about 20 head this year. Dad's getting older, doesn't want the heavy workload anymore. We talked about it. Once there was a kid, we'd scale back, live a quieter life, sell this batch of hogs, then next year maybe buy some hillside land, raise sheep and cattle. No more pre-dawn to past dusk grind. Ava got up too, went with Dad to carry the feed buckets. She'd never done heavy labor. Her shoulders were soft. She hefted the heavy buckets and winced. I chuckled quietly from behind her. If it's too much, I can do it. It's fine, I can manage. Though her hands were clearly shaking. Good thing it was summer break from college. Being tired didn't matter as much. Ava trailed after Dad, learning to slop the pigs and muck out the pens. By evening, she was so exhausted her steps were unsteady. That night, I massaged her sore shoulders. "Any news on your dad?" "Still waiting. Some of the evidence isn't complete yet." I remembered hearing her mom had a heart condition. I looked down. I was thinking, maybe I'll take your mom to see a doctor tomorrow, get her checked out. Ava turned her head, looked right at me. "Shane, why are you being so good to me?" Her question stumped me. "Well, you're helping me carry on the family line, aren't you?" She didn't say anything. Suddenly, she reached up, pulled my head down, and kissed me. Heat flared instantly, and we were tangled together. In the heat of the moment, she bit my earlobe. "Thank you. Don't mention it. It's just business." After a month or so of that trial by fire with Ava, college started up again. We got her mom and grandma settled in, as best we could, then headed back to campus. We both went to the state university, about an hour from the farm. As we got close to school, I finally voiced the question that had been bugging me. "Ava, so, when we're back at school, how are we gonna, make a baby?" She glanced at me, a playful look in her eyes. "What do you have in mind? How about Fridays, or breaks, we sneak off to a motel, or something?" "That could work." She reached out, straightened my collar, leaning closer. "But, are you sure you don't want to go public with this?" To be honest, I'd thought about it. Ava was hot stuff on campus, the finance princess as some called her. The guys chasing her could fill a platoon. If we announced we were married, I'd be fending off rivals left and right. Besides, this was a marriage of convenience. We were supposed to split up eventually. Going public wouldn't be fair to her future. After a moment, I said, "Nah, better not. Don't want to make it harder for you to find someone later." No idea what word set her off, but she gave me a cool look and shifted a little further away from me on the seat of the Ranger. Her high and mighty attitude didn't improve once we got to campus. She ignored me, and I wasn't about to chase her. Back in my dorm, I flopped onto my bed, feeling totally bummed. Barely hit the mattress when our dorm's gossip king, Alex, burst in. Guys, you hear? The finance princess might have a boyfriend. My roommates all shot up, crowding around Alex. Ava Kensington has a boyfriend. How come I haven't heard? For real, dead serious. I saw her wearing a ring. Groans of despair all around, mixed with some gritted teeth. Man, I wonder who the lucky bastard is. I silently slipped my hand into my pocket and took off my own ring. I remembered her, face unreadable, putting it on my finger after we got out of the truck at the farm that first day. Even if I'm just a means to an end for you, she'd said quietly, my husband deserves what others have. A simple white gold band. It was all a broke Ava Kensington could afford then, but it was everything she had to give. My chest felt tight, a strange tingling sensation. Maybe I should try to smooth things over. Everyone gets a little moody sometimes, right? Sent Ava a few WhatsApp messages, but they went unanswered. Decided to try my luck over at the women's dorm. Just got to the entrance when I heard a couple of girls excitedly chattering. So Ava Kensington's boyfriend is Liam Scott from the drama department. I always knew there was something between them. Didn't realize they were official. Not far off, Liam Scott was talking to Ava. Couldn't hear what they were saying, but Liam's eyes were red-rimmed, and Ava looked like she'd smelled something rotten, her expression pure irritation. Liam bit his lip, looking pitiful as he tugged on her sleeve. That one move was enough to make my blood boil. What the hell? She's letting another guy get all over her. I whipped out my phone, snapped a picture, and fired it off to her. Maintained some boundaries during our marriage. 3 exclamation points to show I was pissed. Ava, already annoyed, pulled out her phone, saw my message, and her head snapped around. Across the distance, our eyes met. She looked flustered, started to move towards me, but I turned on my heel and walked away. Too little, too late. Am I the kind of guy to just let things slide? Hell no. I'm the one bankrolling this whole damn thing. Call after call came in from her. I rejected everyone. For some peace and quiet, I finally just turned off my phone. 10 o'clock that night, my roommate got back from a late class, bursting in. You guys know Ava Kensington's downstairs. In front of our dorm. Another roommate chimed in. Yeah, I saw her. She's been there since this afternoon. No idea who she's waiting for. Just pacing and making calls. Hearing that, my anger vanished. I threw on some clothes and bolted downstairs. Shane, where you going? For a walk. I raced downstairs. Ava was still there. She was wearing a light jacket, standing under a tree. I couldn't quite make out her expression in the dim lamplight, but for some reason, my heart ached for her. A voice in my head whispered, "You're screwed, buddy. You're falling in love." Part of me didn't want to admit it, but I couldn't lie to myself anymore. My phone, which I'd reluctantly turned back on, rang. I answered immediately. Shane, yeah. Let me explain, she said, her usual cool voice laced with a slight tremor. He just showed up, started going on and on about stuff. I guess I zoned out, didn't even realize he touched me. I've already changed clothes, showered. Please don't be mad, okay? That's when I noticed her wrist, peeking out from her jacket sleeve, was red. You didn't actually scrub yourself with a Brillo pad, did you? If that's what you wanted, I wouldn't say no. Seriously? How did I never realize Ava was this intense? Still, seeing her this desperate for my approval, I kind of liked it. Ava, look to your right. She looked up. I gestured for her to head off campus, towards the strip of cheap motels. We walked one behind the other into the nearest one. The moment we were in the dingy room, she had me pinned against the door. Husband. My knees went weak. Damn them. Seriously, Ava, how come I never noticed you were such a flirt back in school? Back then, she was a firecracker with a short fuse. Every time I forgot homework, she'd glare and snap. Shane, having a bad memory isn't your fault, but inflicting it on the rest of us is just wrong. The list of complaints she filed against me in high school could fill a history book. Who'd have thought she'd turn into this? Shane, there's a lot you still don't know about me. Her kiss landed, soft and a little placating. I leaned into it, lost in the tenderness. Then she noticed I wasn't wearing my ring, and she made me pay for it, thoroughly. Afterwards, I was lying there, counting on my fingers, trying to figure out her fertile window. Ava, propped on an elbow, laughed at me. Got it all figured out? This woman, I have to get it right. Can't afford to mess this up. Silly, she said, tracing a finger down my chest. Instead of counting days, why not just try more often? Better odds. 6. While Ava and I were busy with Project Baby, the Kensington legal battle was in full swing. Her dad had been detained for nearly 3 months, no visitation allowed. The lawyers said evidence had been destroyed by someone inside the company. Tech recovery would take ages, so they needed to find other corroborating evidence. Deep down, we both knew their business rivals probably had a hand in it. They'd been set up, and now all they could do was play the hand they were dealt. Don't know if it was luck, but right around Christmas, a witness who'd been missing for ages suddenly turned himself in, clearing Mr. Kensington's name. So I fired up the old Ford Ranger, and Ava and I went to bring her dad back to the hog farm too. This was my first time meeting the former tycoon in person. The way his eyes swept over me made my scalp prickle, but he was perfectly cordial, smiling and thanking me for helping his family in their time of crisis. Suddenly, I broke out in a cold sweat. I had a feeling there was more to his words than met the eye. Could Mr. Kensington already know I'd taken advantage of their situation, practically forced his daughter into this? I quietly asked Ava later. She told me not to overthink it, so I just had to suck it up and play host of the old man. But I had this sinking feeling that Ava wouldn't be mine for much longer. Sure enough, a few days later, Mr. Kensington contacted a friend in the UK, got access to a hefty sum of money stashed in an offshore safety deposit box. He bought back the Kensington mansion in Chicago and wanted us all to move in. I wasn't keen on moving into the mansion, but Ava said, "I'm your wife, Shane. My place is with you." The unspoken part was that her family wanted us both there. All right, a girl raised in high society, she actually had a conscience. So I went along with it, moved into the Kensington place. Didn't expect to get a power play thrown at me on the second day there. Just got up, headed downstairs, and heard a familiar voice. "Mr. Kensington, it's so wonderful you're all okay." I was worried sick. It was Liam Scott with his parents, chatting with Mr. Kensington. He was sitting next to Mrs. Kensington, with Ava directly across from him. Looked like one big happy family. The Kensingtons and Scotts had known each other for decades. Liam used to be over at their place like it was his own home. "Good boy, Liam." "We're fine, Mr. Kensington said. Ava and I had been married for months, but Mrs. Kensington still looked down on me for my background, never warmed up to me. It was Grandma Kensington who spotted me. "Grandson-in-law, you're up. Come join us." Ava finally saw me, stood up, and pulled me down to sit beside her. My butt had barely hit the expensive couch when Liam blurted out, shocked, "Ava, you actually married this." This hick. His face was a mask of hurt, like he was about to cry. Anyone else would have felt sorry for him. Ava was unfazed. She just smiled and asked me if I was hungry. If it weren't for her clenched fists, I wouldn't have even known she was angry. Must be frustrating for her, right? She was the golden girl, supposed to marry someone of her own class, someone suitable. Instead, she got stuck with me, the guy who lucked out. For a second, I wanted to laugh. Good thing I was mentally prepared for this. Even if Ava kicked me out right now, as long as I got my million back, I wouldn't be at a loss. But she didn't. Instead, she leaned in and tenderly wiped the corner of my mouth. Liam was so furious he ran off crying. His mother, Mrs. Scott, shot me a disapproving glare and hurried after him. 7. That night, Ava was tied up talking business with her family. I was bored, so I went for a walk in the sprawling yard. Just rounded a corner, and a woman stepped out. It was Sarah Shun. Well, you're quite the operator, aren't you?" she said, her voice dripping sarcasm. "Can't compare to you," I shot back. "Abandoning your husband and son, living the high life. Did you know while you were dripping in diamonds, I was picking through trash just to eat?" "Mom, that's right. The moment I saw her with Liam Scott earlier, that poised, elegant woman, I recognized her. My own mother, who walked out on me and Dad. Heard she'd moved to the city, married some rich guy, and doted on her stepson like he was a prince. Never imagined that stepson would be Liam Scott. Her expression didn't change. She looked down her nose at me. "Don't you dare call me Mom. I have no son as low class as you. Low class begets low class, wouldn't you say? Ms. Shun, I'm not here to trade insults. Liam is your younger stepbrother. You're older. You should give way to him. He's loved Ava for over a decade, dreams of being her man. If you know what's good for you, you'll leave Ava Kensington." I laughed. "You say you're not my mom, But you admit Liam's my brother. Sarah Shun, have you lost your mind? You brat. How dare you use my name? Why can't I? For a fool like you. Even saying your name is giving you too much credit. The garden's too nice to waste on you. Get lost. Sarah Shun stormed off, fuming. My mood for a walk was ruined. Back in our suite, I just stripped down in the bathroom when Ava walked in. Don't you knock. I snapped, still raw from the encounter. After that scene with Liam downstairs, and now this, I wasn't exactly feeling warm towards her. Turned to leave, but she wrapped her arms around me from behind. Angry? No. I looked down at her. Even back in her princess tower, she seemed unchanged with me. Still gentle, her eyes full of that captivating tenderness. But I knew she didn't love me. Someone who truly loves you wouldn't let you be humiliated like that in front of everyone. My hand instinctively went to her stomach. This whole deal was for a baby. Her period was late this month. Had we already hit the target? Just as I was thinking that, Ava tilted her head up to kiss me. I pushed her away. Don't. Your precious Liam will be upset. She froze, then tried to grab my arm. Shane, listen to me. Nothing to say. We're a transaction. Business done. We go our separate ways. I don't want to know about your family's drama. 8. After I left the bathroom, Ava stayed in there for a long time. By the time she came out, I was already asleep, or pretending to be. She climbed into bed carefully, nestled into my arms, and lightly kissed my cheek. Woke up the next morning, and she was in my arms again. A wave of irritation washed over me. I rolled over and got out of bed. Dad had already texted, asking about the pregnancy. He's got more experience in these things. He could also see the Kensingtons wouldn't tolerate me for long. We couldn't afford a situation where we lost everything. I texted Ava, then took her to a clinic. All I can say is my calculations were spot on. It was still very early, but she was definitely pregnant. I walked out with the confirmation slip, completely dazed. My emotions were a mess. On one hand, I was thrilled. My $1 million investment wasn't going down the drain. On the other, I was heartbroken. A knockout like Ava was about to be out of my life. Returned to the Kensington mansion with that turmoil churning inside me. Ava's long-lost gang of besties had suddenly reappeared, all gathered in the garden, chatting and laughing. She was once again the center of attention, lapping up their fawning compliments. One of them, a blonde I vaguely remembered from high school, probably put up to it by Liam Scott, suddenly piped up, "Seriously, guys, don't you think that pig farmer guy just stinks? Like, makes you want to puke if you get too close? Remember, Ava, back in school, you hated how he smelled the most." Ava heard this, just glanced up at the girl, then said coolly, "Yeah, that smell is pretty disgusting." That same mocking smile was back on her face, exactly like in high school. A chill ran down my spine. All those intimate days and nights. I'd completely forgotten that she and I used to be sworn enemies. I couldn't listen to any more. I turned and went back to our room. Called Dad. Told him she was pregnant. Then I took the signed divorce papers out of my bag and put them in the nightstand drawer. I'd been hesitating, but hearing Ava's words made it crystal clear. We were from two different worlds. 9. Ava had no idea I'd overheard their conversation. That night, she still clung to me. Her hot body pressed close. Worried about the baby, I tried to push her away, but she pinned my hands to my chest. "Honey, you've been so cold to me lately." "Have I? You're the one who's disgusted by me." "Yes, you have." She sounded genuinely hurt, muttering, "You don't even let me cuddle anymore." I looked at her, couldn't stop myself from asking, "Ava, aren't you tired? Tired of acting like you're so in love with me? I told you from the start this was a deal, a transaction. Why did you have to pretend you couldn't bear to let me go? You almost had me believing it." My nose tingled. I felt like I was about to cry. But Ava misunderstood. Her eyes darkened, grew deeper. "As long as it's with you, I can handle being much more." Tired. She was coming on strong, and I never got the chance to say what I really meant. Ava kept me busy all night. I was actually worried about the baby. After making sure everything was okay, I got back into bed. As soon as I lay down, Ava instinctively snuggled into my arms. She was fast asleep. Her hands still rested on my back, patting it gently. Not long after we got married, I had a nightmare, woke up terrified. I casually mentioned once how, when I was a kid, homeless, I got caught in a bad thunderstorm. Ever since, I startled easily in my sleep if I was alone. After she heard that, She made it a habit to pat me back to sleep. Looking at the faint dark circles under her closed eyes, I figured trying to revive the Kensington Corporation couldn't be easy. Oh well, forget it. We were always from different worlds. If I hadn't forced the issue, she never would have married me. Getting this far was more than I could have hoped for, really. 10. Early the next morning, I sent Ava a text about the divorce papers in the drawer, grabbed my suitcase, and left the Kensington mansion. The sky was gray and overcast, just like the day I'd picked up Ava and her family. As I drove the Ranger away, I thought I saw someone running after the truck. Vaguely looked like Mrs. Kensington. She never liked me. Why would you try to stop me? I scoffed at myself for even thinking it, then popped out my SIM card and tossed it out the window. My dad knew how to cure a broken heart. He bought me a ticket to Hawaii, told me to go check out the girls on the beach. I dutifully went and stayed there for 2 months. Don't know what it was, but I actually got hit on a lot. I'd smugly turn them down, but not before sneaking a couple of extra peeks at the scenery. It's not like I didn't think about Ava. Every time her face popped into my head, I'd curse myself for being so damn weak. Plenty of fish in the sea, right? If one doesn't work out, find another. So I'd head to a club, pick out a couple of statuesque dancers, and just watch them. For some reason, though, I kept feeling like someone in the booth next to mine looked familiar. She slowly stood up, walked towards me. Holy crap, it was Ava Kensington. She was noticeably pregnant now, her belly round under a stylish dress. She advanced on me, her eyes ice cold. Husband, mind telling me what you're doing? Me. Q4 smile meme. My sixth sense screamed at me. Do not mention the divorce, or she will literally murder you. I was just admiring the, natural scenery. Seen enough? Ready to go home now. Huh. Oh, yeah. I glanced at her very round belly. Ava, whose face was already thunderous, went a shade darker. She practically spat my name through gritted teeth. Shane. She was so mad, she crushed a cocktail glass in her hand. Me, well, at least if she's crushing that, she can't crush my. Never mind. I didn't dare breathe the whole way out of the club, just followed her. The car headed straight for the outskirts of Honolulu. Staring out at the dark landscape, all sorts of scenarios played through my head. I'd even decided that if she started swinging, I'd drop to my knees and beg for mercy. But I never expected this. The second I got out of the car in front of a plush villa, Mrs. Kensington let out a wail and threw herself at me. Me? We weren't that close, were we? Mrs. Kensington clung to me, sobbing, tears, and snot everywhere. You rascal. How could you just leave like that? Without even saying goodbye to your mother-in-law? Mr. Kensington stood behind her, looking grim. After a moment, he gently pulled his wife away. Let's talk inside. I trailed after Ava, completely bewildered. Ava, what's with your parents? They couldn't possibly be worried about me, could they? No way. Ava shot me an icy glare, then reached out and took my hand. You heartless little liar. Do you have any idea how long we've been looking for you? Her palm was burning hot. I flinched without thinking. Then I caught myself. Wait a minute. What did I have to feel guilty about? We agreed it was a business deal. I sat down on the couch and, in the process, accidentally bumped her pregnant belly. Ava lifted her shirt slightly, drawing my eyes to her belly. Whoa, how far along are you? Mrs. Kensington covered her mouth, looking like she was about to start crying again. My head was spinning. I turned to Ava. Can you comfort your mom? What's wrong with her? Ava gave me a sullen look. Forget her. I want to cry. 11. Only then did I find out that after I left, the Kensington household had been thrown into chaos. First, Mrs. Kensington had rushed upstairs to wake Ava, and then they found the divorce papers in the nightstand. Mrs. K assumed Ava had picked a fight with me and driven me away, so she lit into her without hearing the full story. When Ava saw my text and realized I wanted a divorce, she was furious too. Finally, Mr. Kensington had the last word. The Connors saved us when we were desperate. They're our benefactors. We can't be the kind of people who discard someone once they're no longer useful. So the entire family mobilized, and they've been searching for me for 3 whole months. While I was in Hawaii drooling over bikini babes, Ava Kensington was practically on her knees in front of my dad, begging him to tell her where I was. I looked at Ava, embarrassed but trying to be polite. You didn't tell your mom we had an arranged marriage? Then I confessed to Mr. and Mrs. Kensington, sir, ma'am. Honestly, I'm not some noble hero. I helped you back then because, well, I was captivated by Ava's beauty, and I wanted her to have my kid. Mm. Mr. Kensington choked on his spit. Ava sighed. Could you possibly be any more clueless? Me, huh? She looked straight at me. No matter what you think in my heart, you are my husband. Back in school, we were always at each other's throats, fighting constantly. I never imagined back then that I'd end up marrying you. But when my family lost everything, that day we were homeless on the streets. You drove up in that old Ford Ranger, appearing out of nowhere like a hero. In that moment, you found a place in my heart. Shane, I like you. I really like you. Me, huh? She lightly smacked my head. No, Huss. You have to say you like me too. But I felt a little wronged. You told your friends you hated the smell of pig shit on me, even though I thought I was prepared for it. That comment really cut deep. To have the woman you're intimate with disgusted by you, any man would find that hard to take. Ava blinked, then remembered what I was talking about. She was about to speak when Mr. Kensington interrupted, trying to diffuse the tension with a goofy grin. You actually said something like that. Was everything I taught you for nothing? Ava dodged his playful swat, flustered. Dad, we talked about this. It was part of the plan. What plan? When did I ever tell you to say such a rotten thing? He trailed off, then remembered. His expression slowly turned awkward. It was Mrs. Kensington who settled things. All right, it's late. Let Shane get some rest. Ava, the rest of it, you explain to Shane behind closed doors. This whole thing isn't over yet. We need to maintain secrecy. 12. Back in the bedroom, Ava quickly explained the whole backstory. Turns out, when the Kensingtons went under, the families of her so-called best friends were all involved in the corporate sabotage. The Kensingtons weren't about to let those who'd betrayed them get away with it. Pretending to patch things up, even making that awful comment about the farm smell, was the first step in deceiving their enemies, lulling them into a false sense of security. They just hadn't counted on me overhearing that comment and secretly taking off. After Ava explained everything, she held me and kissed me for a long, long time. Kissed me until I was trembling. Shane, please don't just disappear like that again, okay? Her breath was hot on my face. Only then did I realize the corners of her eyes were red. Honestly, I felt incredibly guilty. I'd mentally prepared myself from the start. Pulling away hurt, yeah, but I'd used looking at other women as a distraction. I'd never once considered that Ava might actually have real feelings for me. It had only been 3 months, but she'd lost a lot of weight. The dark circles under her eyes were more pronounced. The way she looked at me, so vulnerable, helpless, and a little pitiful. Wasn't this the same ice queen with the razor tongue? When did she master the teary-eyed offensive? All I could do was promise, over and over, that I wouldn't run off again. After she went to take a shower, I was at loose ends, wandering around the room to kill time. In the adjoining study, a diary caught my eye. The cover was faded yellow, looked kind of familiar. Flipped it open. Whoa, wasn't this Ava's old diary from high school? I'd accidentally stumbled upon it once. Saw she'd written about having a huge crush on Little Sunshine. She caught me, and then took every opportunity to roast me for weeks after. Feeling a little jealous, I started reading to find out who this Little Sunshine was. The more I read, the weirder it got. He was moving equipment with the athletics captain today, laughing so happily. Why doesn't he ever smile at me like that? I can be good and obedient too, just as much as the English class rep. Couldn't he just pat my arm? OMG, he shared a popsicle with his desk mate. And he gave her beef jerky. I'm so mad. So all those times she was giving me the cold shoulder, most of it was jealousy. The great Ava Kensington, emotionally stunted like a teenager. A faint sound behind me. I turned and found myself looking into a pair of dark, knowing eyes. The tips of Ava's ears were pink. Her voice was husky, teasing. Busted. Now, what are we going to do about that? Yeah, what are we going to do? I reached up, looped my arms around her neck. Well, you could always shut me up. 13. The Kensingtons moved swiftly and decisively. In less than a year, the families of Ava's friends and Liam Scott's family, including my mother, Sarah Shunn, who had married into it, all went bankrupt one by one, their shady dealings exposed. When disaster struck their own doorsteps, they all panicked, scrambling to beg Ava for help. Ava didn't say a word, just loaded them all into a van and drove them out to our hog farm. She'd given my dad a heads up. The farm hadn't been mucked out in 2 days. The moment those spoiled brats stepped inside, the stench hit them, and they were all puking their guts out. Especially Liam Scott. He was crying so hard, snot was running into his mouth. "Ava, why did you bring us to this disgusting place?" he wailed. Ava chuckled softly. "Disgusting? After the Kensingtons went bankrupt, I worked here every single day." The whole group went silent, exchanging nervous glances. Ava wasn't about to beat around the bush. She pointed to a pile of shovels and pitchforks in the corner. "Since we've known each other for so long, I'll offer you a way out. Whoever can clean up all this pig manure, I'll give them $1 million to get back on their feet. Of course, you don't have to take the money. You could just walk away. But don't come crying to me for help later." With that, she walked over and picked up our daughter, Lily, who was now a few months old. I was watching the show from a lounge chair, holding a beer. So I said to Ava, "Who do you think will crack first?" "Probably Liam. He's been coddled his whole life. He can't handle this kind of hardship." Sure enough, a few minutes later, Liam came running over, clutching his nose. "Boo-hoo-hoo. Ava, are you trying to kill me? We grew up together. You used to come over to my house for dinner all the time when we were kids. How can you be so cruel to me?" Ava didn't even look at him, just gently patted Lily. "Yes, we had years of friendship, and your family still plotted against us. Ungrateful backstabbers." Liam's face turned ugly. He whipped his head around and glared at me. Looked like he finally knew the full story about me and his stepmother, my mother. But I couldn't be bothered with him. I took Lily from Ava. She was asleep, her round little face just like her mother's. Couldn't resist kissing her cheek. Smelled like milk and baby powder. "You guys chat," I said, winking at Ava. "I'm going to take the little one inside for a nap." A few hours later, that whole crew of childhood friends was filthy beyond belief. The most pathetic one was Liam. While attempting to shovel manure, he slipped and fell right into a muck pit. You ask why they didn't just leave. Get real. Middle of nowhere, woods all around. They'd be risking their necks, trying to walk out through unfamiliar territory. Every one of them was now reeking of that pig shit smell they hated so much. Nobody was complaining about it anymore. Ava had a driver take them back to the city, and true to her word, she arranged for each of them to receive the promised money, though it was a fraction of what they'd lost. Ava was doing it for me, to give me justice. She never forgot how they had humiliated me that day in the garden. She remembered that conversation when one of them had asked about the farm smell. Ava had looked at them coolly and said, "Yeah, that smell is pretty disgusting." But later, she had whispered to her own heart, "But Shane is the man I love. On him, all I ever smelled was safety, like coming home." She would never forget it. When the Kensingtons lost everything, when her so-called friends turned their backs, leaving her stranded and desperate in the dead of winter. And then Shane Connor, appearing like a miracle. Driving that old Ford Ranger, the weather bitter cold outside, but inside the truck it was warm, the heater blasting just for them. The way he'd looked at her then, his eyes shining. "Come on, Ava, I'm taking you home." She never forgot. And she never forgot how those friends had tried to tear him down.